The distress signal burst through the void of space like a desperate scream, crackling across all emergency frequencies with the raw terror of beings facing extinction. Captain Jake Mitchell sat in the command chair of the human exploration vessel Iron Wind, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips as the ship's advanced translation system struggled to make sense of the alien transmission. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in an ominous glow as the ship's artificial intelligence began processing the fragmented message. The Iron Wind had been drifting through the Outer Rim territories for 3 months, cataloging new star systems and searching for signs of intelligent life. This was the first time they had found it. "Captain, the signal is originating from the Kepler 438 system," reported Communications Officer Rachel from her station near the main view screen. Her fingers danced across holographic controls as she tried to boost the signal strength. "It's badly corrupted by stellar interference, but I'm detecting multiple transmission sources. Whatever's happening over there, it's big." Jake set down his coffee and leaned forward in his chair, studying the tactical hologram that materialized in front of him. The Kepler system appeared as a cluster of glowing dots surrounded by navigational data. 3 days away at maximum burn, located in a region of space so remote that most civilizations had never bothered to explore it. "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked, his military training kicking in despite years of peaceful exploration missions. Rachel's console hummed with activity as she ran the signal through the ship's most advanced filtering systems. The bridge crew watched in tense silence as fragments of alien language began to form coherent words through the universal translator. What they heard made everyone's blood run cold. "This is Administrator Nala of the Yith Collective Research Station," came a high-pitched voice trembling with absolute terror. "We are under attack by unknown vessels. Our defensive systems have been completely destroyed. Civilian population of 40,000 souls in immediate mortal danger. Please, anyone who receives this transmission, we desperately need help. We have families here. We have children." The transmission dissolved into static, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake looked around at his crew of 25 humans, each one processing the implications of what they had just heard. The Iron Wind was designed for exploration and scientific research, not combat. Their weapons consisted of basic railguns for asteroid clearing and point defense systems for debris. Against whatever force could overwhelm an entire research station, they would be like a butterfly fighting a hurricane. But those aliens had mentioned children. Navigation Officer Tom Chen pulled up detailed scans of the Kepler system on his workstation. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from that region. Whatever's attacking them has serious firepower. My sensors are detecting at least 6 large vessels, possibly more." Science Officer Lisa Park ran rapid calculations on her quantum computer. "Sir, based on the transmission delay and signal degradation, I estimate the attack began approximately 4 hours ago. If we leave now at maximum engine burn, we might arrive before." She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood what she meant. Jake activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice echoing through every corridor and compartment of the Iron Wind. "All hands, this is Captain Mitchell. We have just received a distress call from an alien research station currently under attack by hostile forces. I need to be completely honest with all of you. We are probably outgunned, outnumbered, and outclassed by whatever enemy we're about to face." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the impossible distance they would have to travel. "These aliens have 40,000 civilians trapped on their station, including children. According to our long-range sensors, we are the only ship within range to provide assistance. I am asking each of you to make a choice that could cost us our lives." The intercom crackled as Jake continued his address to the crew. "Anyone who wants to transfer to an escape pod and wait for rescue can do so immediately. There is absolutely no shame in making that decision. We signed up to explore the galaxy and study new worlds, not to fight wars against unknown enemies." For several long minutes, the bridge remained silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems and computer processors. Jake watched his crew's faces, seeing the internal struggle each person was experiencing. These were scientists, engineers, and explorers, not soldiers. He had no right to ask them to die for strangers. Then Chief Engineer Ryan O'Connor actually started laughing from his station near the engine controls. The sound was so unexpected that everyone turned to look at him with confusion. "Captain, with all due respect," Ryan said, his Irish accent thick with emotion, "do you really think any human on this ship would abandon children to die while we run away to safety? We might be explorers instead of warriors, but we're still human. And humans don't leave kids behind." One by one, the other crew members began nodding their agreement. Weapons specialist Mark Rodriguez started running diagnostics on their limited armaments. Medical officer Jennifer Walsh began preparing the sick bay for potential casualties. Even young Tony Bennett, barely out of the academy and on his first deep space mission, was already calculating hyperspace jump coordinates. Well then, Jake said quietly, feeling a surge of pride for his crew that threatened to overwhelm him. Let's go show these aliens what humans are capable of when innocent lives are threatened. The Iron Wind came alive with purpose as every system powered up simultaneously. The exploration vessel transformed from a peaceful research ship into something far more dangerous. A human warship carrying 25 people willing to die for strangers they had never met. In the depths of space, the alien distress call continued broadcasting its desperate plea for help. But now, for the first time in hours, that call was being answered. The Iron Wind drifted like a ghost at the very edge of the Kepler system, hidden among the radiation shadows of 3 dead asteroids that had been shattered by some ancient cosmic collision. Captain Jake Mitchell stood behind his tactical officer, watching the enemy formation through the ship's most advanced long-range sensors while every non-essential system remained powered down to avoid detection. The 6 enemy warships hung in space around the Yith research station like vultures circling a dying animal. Each vessel was easily 3 times the size of the human exploration ship, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays that could vaporize the Iron Wind in seconds. The research station itself was a magnificent structure, a spinning wheel of crystalline metal nearly 5 kilometers in diameter, now scarred with blast marks and venting atmosphere from dozens of breaches. "Captain, I'm intercepting more transmissions from the station," Communications Officer Rachel whispered, her voice barely audible as she monitored the alien frequencies. Administrator Nala is still broadcasting on emergency channels, but the situation is deteriorating rapidly. The attackers have breached the outer residential sections and are systematically herding civilians toward the central core. Jake clenched his fists as he studied the tactical display. The enemy strategy was textbook hostage control, force all prisoners into a single location where one threat could manage thousands of people. He had witnessed similar tactics during the brutal colony wars near Earth, where pirates would raid mining stations and hold entire families for ransom. Any progress on identifying these attackers? Jake asked, turning to his science officer. Lisa Park looked up from her analysis console, her face grim with concentration. "I've been running their ship signatures through our xenobiology database for the past hour. Based on hull construction, weapon energy signatures and movement patterns, I believe we're dealing with Korth raiders." The name sent a chill through the bridge crew. Everyone in human space had heard stories about the Korth, a nomadic species that had turned piracy into an art form. They traveled in massive fleets, stripping entire civilizations of their technology and resources before moving on to the next target. Jake nodded slowly. "What do we know about their combat doctrine?" "They're vicious but not particularly creative," Lisa replied, pulling up tactical files on her screen. "The Korth rely on overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority rather than sophisticated strategy. They typically just hammer their enemies into submission with brute force." That information sparked an idea in Jake's mind. During his years in the Earth Defense Corps, he had learned that the most dangerous enemies were often the most predictable ones. If the Korth always fought the same way, then perhaps they could be surprised by an opponent who refused to play by their rules. "Mark, give me a full weapons status report," Jake ordered his weapons officer. Mark Rodriguez ran his hands over the tactical console, checking each system individually. "All weapons are online and ready, Captain. We have 12 plasma torpedoes in our forward tubes, twin railgun batteries with full ammunition loads, and point defense laser arrays for close-in work. Against 6 heavy warships it's not much firepower, but we can definitely hurt them if we get close enough." Jake activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice carrying to every compartment of the Iron Wind. "Listen carefully, everyone. We're about to attempt something that goes against every rule of conventional space warfare. Instead of trying to match the Korth's superior firepower, we're going to use our advantages: speed, maneuverability, and the element of surprise." He brought up a holographic tactical display showing the enemy formation in 3 dimensions. The 6 Korth vessels had positioned themselves in a loose sphere around the research station, covering all possible escape routes. "The Korth think like schoolyard bullies," Jake continued. "They expect their enemies to either flee in terror or stand and fight a traditional battle. We're going to do neither. Ryan, I need you to push our engines beyond their safety limits. How much power can you give me?" Chief Engineer Ryan O'Connor grinned from his station near the engine controls, his eyes lighting up with the kind of enthusiasm that made him legendary among the engineering corps. Captain, our fusion reactors are currently running at standard cruise power. I can boost output to 120% for approximately 10 minutes before we start melting critical components. Push it to 130%, and we'll have maybe 5 minutes before the whole system goes critical. Give me 125%, Jake decided. We'll need every bit of speed we can get. The deck began to vibrate slightly as Ryan's modifications took effect. Throughout the ship, systems that were never designed to handle such power loads began operating at their absolute limits. Rachel, open a communication channel to the research station, Jake ordered. Let's find out exactly what we're dealing with. The response came almost instantly, as if Administrator Nala had been waiting desperately for any sign of help. Her voice transmitted through the universal translator carried the strain of someone who had been facing death for hours. Unknown vessel, please identify yourself immediately, she said, her words quick and urgent. Are you here to provide assistance? Our situation is becoming critical. Jake took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would commit his crew to a battle they might not survive. This is Captain Jake Mitchell of the human exploration vessel Iron Wind. We received your distress transmission and came as quickly as possible. What is the current status of your civilian population? There was a long pause, filled only with static and the distant sound of what might have been explosions or weapons fire. When Nala spoke again, her voice carried a note of confusion along with the fear. Human? I'm not familiar with your species. Are you representatives of the Galactic Council? We sent emergency requests to all member civilizations, but no one has responded. Negative, Administrator, Jake replied. We're independent explorers from a world called Earth. We're not part of any galactic government. How many hostile forces have boarded your station? The question seemed to break through Nala's shock at encountering a completely unknown alien species. At least 50 Korth warriors are aboard our station, possibly more. They have advanced weaponry and battle armor. Our security forces were overwhelmed within the first hour of the attack. Jake studied the tactical display, already formulating a plan that would either save 40,000 innocent lives or get his entire crew killed in the attempt. The battle had transformed the peaceful Kepler system into a deadly war zone as the Iron Wind weaved through space like a falcon hunting among eagles. Captain Jake Mitchell gripped his command chair as the ship executed another impossible turn, using the gravitational pull of a nearby moon to slingshot around a barrage of plasma fire that would have vaporized them instantly. The human vessel danced between the massive Korth warships with movements that defied every law of conventional space combat. Where the alien raiders expected their enemies to engage in slow, methodical exchanges of heavy weapons fire, the Iron Wind struck like lightning and vanished before the enemy could respond. Direct hit on Korth vessel Gamma, Weapons Officer Mark Rodriguez reported as another plasma torpedo streaked through space and found its target. The explosion bloomed like a deadly flower against the alien ship's hull. Their primary weapons array is completely offline. That's 3 ships we've crippled. Through the bridge view screen, Jake could see the wounded Korth vessel spinning slowly, venting atmosphere and debris into the void. Its weapon ports were dark, the massive energy cannons that had been pounding the research station now nothing more than twisted metal. But the remaining 3 Korth warships were learning from their mistakes. Instead of maintaining their tight defensive formation around the research station, they had spread out across several thousand kilometers of space, creating a deadly net designed to trap the smaller human ship. Navigation Officer Tom Chen called out warnings as enemy fire patterns shifted around them. Captain, they're trying to box us in. The lead ship is moving to cut off our escape vector while the other 2 are herding us toward their main guns. Jake studied the tactical hologram floating in front of his chair, watching the enemy movements with the eye of a veteran combat pilot. The Korth were finally showing some intelligence, abandoning their brute force approach for something resembling actual strategy. They're learning, Jake muttered. That makes them dangerous. The ship shuddered as a near miss from a Korth energy beam overloaded their port shields. Sparks flew from several bridge consoles as the protective barrier flickered and struggled to maintain coherence. Shields down to 70%, Science Officer Lisa Park reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. If they land a direct hit with one of those heavy cannons, we're finished. That was when the Korth command ship opened a communication channel, its transmission cutting through the battle chatter with the authority of absolute confidence. Put it through, Jake ordered. The voice that emerged from the speakers was like gravel grinding against steel, harsh and guttural even through the universal translator's smoothing effects. Human vessel, this is War Leader Grak of the Korth raiding fleet. Your interference in our operation is not appreciated. Withdraw immediately and we may allow you to live. Jake actually laughed, the sound cold and sharp in the tense atmosphere of the bridge. War Leader Grak, this is Captain Jake Mitchell. You attacked a peaceful research station and threatened 40,000 innocent civilians including children. The only thing I'm going to allow is your complete surrender and immediate withdrawal from this system. There was a moment of silence filled only by the hum of ship systems and the distant rumble of weapons fire. When Grak spoke again, his voice carried obvious amusement, as if he were dealing with a particularly stubborn child. Surrender? Human, you pilot one small exploration vessel against 3 remaining warships of the Korth fleet. You have fought with unexpected skill, I admit, but mathematics cannot be denied. You cannot win this battle. Depart now, or we will demonstrate why the galaxy fears our name. Jake's response came without hesitation, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. You don't understand something fundamental about humans, War Leader. We're not trying to win a fair fight according to your rules. We're trying to save innocent people. And my species has a very simple policy when it comes to protecting children: we don't give up. Ever. He cut the transmission before Grak could respond and activated the ship's internal communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor and compartment of the Iron Wind. All hands prepare for final assault. This is going to get very rough very quickly. Chief Engineer Ryan O'Connor's voice came back immediately through the intercom, tinged with concern. Captain, the fusion reactors are already running at 120% capacity. The containment fields are showing stress fractures, and the plasma conduits are operating beyond their design limits. If I push the engines any harder, we risk complete catastrophic failure. Jake stared at the tactical display, watching the 3 remaining Korth ships moving to surround his vessel. 40,000 civilians were counting on them, including children who had done nothing wrong except be born on a research station in the wrong star system. Do it anyway, Ryan, Jake ordered quietly. We only need the engines to hold together for one more attack run. The Iron Wind suddenly surged forward with acceleration that pressed every crew member back into their seats. The ship's inertial dampeners screamed in protest as they struggled to compensate for forces that exceeded their maximum ratings. Throughout the vessel, warning alarms began sounding as system after system reported dangerous operating conditions. The human ship raced directly toward the Korth command vessel, abandoning all pretense of defensive maneuvering. The 3 enemy warships opened fire simultaneously, filling the space between them with a deadly storm of energy beams, plasma bolts, and explosive projectiles. Shields at 60% and falling rapidly, Lisa reported as the ship bucked and rolled under the devastating barrage. We're taking direct hits. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we're losing atmosphere. Jake ignored the damage reports and emergency alerts, his entire focus locked on the tactical display. The Korth command ship loomed ahead of them, its massive weapons arrays charging for what would probably be the killing blow that would end the Iron Wind and everyone aboard. The bridge lights flickered as another direct hit overloaded their power grid. But Jake Mitchell smiled grimly as he prepared to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when innocent lives hung in the balance. The damaged Iron Wind drifted through space like a wounded animal, its hull scarred with blast marks and trailing wisps of venting atmosphere into the cold vacuum. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red shadows as Captain Jake Mitchell surveyed the devastation around him. 3 of his crew members lay unconscious in the medical bay, and the ship's beautiful exploration equipment was now twisted wreckage. Chief Engineer Ryan O'Connor crawled out from beneath a sparking control panel, his uniform torn and his hands covered in coolant fluid that glowed faintly blue in the emergency lighting. Sweat dripped from his face as he worked frantically to restore the systems that kept them all alive. Captain, I've managed to get partial engine power back online, Ryan reported, wiping grease from his forehead. The main fusion reactor is stable, but we lost 2 of the 3 power distribution nodes when that Korth heavy cannon hit us. We're running on backup life support and most of our weapon systems are either destroyed or barely functional. Through the bridge view screen, Jake could see the 3 surviving Korth warships regrouping around their massive flagship several thousand kilometers away. The alien vessels moved sluggishly, their formations loose and disorganized. Something had changed during their brutal engagement, and Jake was determined to figure out what. How long until they realize we're not completely dead? Jake asked, watching the enemy ships through his tactical display. Navigation Officer Tom Chen looked up from his damaged console, where half the holographic projectors had failed. Sir, our stealth systems are offline, but there's so much debris and energy interference from the battle that we might be able to stay hidden for maybe 20 more minutes. Jake nodded grimly. 20 minutes to either repair their ship enough to escape or find a way to complete their impossible mission of saving 40,000 civilians. The odds were not encouraging. Lisa, show me detailed sensor readings from those Korth ships, Jake ordered his science officer. I want to know everything about their current condition. Science officer Lisa Park worked at her station despite a head injury that had left dried blood on her temple. Her fingers moved across holographic controls that flickered and sparked with each input. Slowly, a detailed analysis of the enemy vessels appeared on the main display. Captain, this is interesting, Lisa said, her voice gaining strength as she focused on the data. I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout their remaining ships. It looks like our torpedo strikes did more damage than we initially thought. Their energy distribution systems are completely disrupted. Jake leaned forward, studying the scrolling information. Each Korth vessel showed critical damage to power relays, weapon systems, and structural components. But one reading caught his attention immediately. What about their life support systems? He asked. Lisa's eyes widened as she understood the implications of his question. She ran additional scans, her expression growing more hopeful with each result. Captain, the Korth homeworld is a low-oxygen desert environment with atmospheric pressure barely 20% of Earth normal. They require specialized environmental suits to survive in what most species consider standard atmosphere. If their life support systems are compromised, they become desperate enough to make mistakes, Jake finished, feeling the first spark of hope since the battle began. Communications officer Rachel Martinez worked frantically at her station, trying to restore their ability to monitor enemy transmissions. Most of her equipment had been destroyed in the fighting, but she was slowly rebuilding communication links using spare parts salvaged from other systems. Captain, I'm picking up fragmented transmissions from the Korth fleet, Rachel reported after several minutes of intense concentration. The Universal Translator is having trouble with their damaged communication systems, but it sounds like they're having heated arguments about whether to continue the attack or retreat to their home territory. On the tactical display, the 3 Korth warships were moving slowly back toward the research station, but their approach lacked the confidence and coordination they had shown earlier. Their formation was sloppy, with gaps large enough for a smaller ship to exploit. More importantly, they seemed hesitant to engage the Iron Wind directly, even though the human vessel was clearly crippled. They're afraid of us, Jake realized with surprise. After everything we put them through, they're actually afraid of one damaged exploration ship. Weapons Officer Mark Rodriguez managed to restore power to his tactical console, running diagnostics on their remaining armaments. Captain, I've got one torpedo launcher back online and partial railgun capability. It's not much firepower, but we could still hurt them if we get close enough. Jake studied the tactical situation, weighing their limited options against the lives of 40,000 innocent civilians. The Korth were wounded and confused, but they still had enough firepower to destroy his ship and complete their attack on the research station. However, their obvious reluctance to engage suggested they might be open to negotiation. All hands, prepare for final engagement, Jake announced over the ship's internal communication system. We're going to finish this one way or another. The Iron Wind began moving toward the enemy formation, its damaged engines providing barely enough thrust to maintain course. Every system strained to function despite extensive battle damage, and warning alarms continued sounding throughout the ship. The Korth vessels detected the approaching human ship and began charging their weapons, but their response was slow and uncertain. They had expected the Iron Wind to be destroyed or retreating by now, not limping toward them for another confrontation. Captain, incoming transmission from the Korth fleet, Rachel announced. Put it through. A different voice emerged from the speakers this time, higher-pitched and nervous compared to the dead war leader Grak. Human vessel, this is Subcommander Vek of the Korth raiding fleet. War leader Grak is no longer available to command. We propose an immediate ceasefire. Both sides withdraw their vessels and leave this system. Jake's response was immediate and uncompromising. Subcommander Vek, you attacked a peaceful research station and threatened innocent civilians including children. The only acceptable outcome is your complete surrender and immediate withdrawal from this system. The real battle for 40,000 lives was about to begin. The aftermath of battle left the Kepler system eerily quiet, like a graveyard floating among the stars. Captain Jake Mitchell sat in his damaged command chair, watching the final traces of the Korth fleet disappear into hyperspace as their faster-than-light drives engaged. The 3 surviving enemy warships had retreated with their tails between their legs, abandoning their attack on the research station after losing half their fleet to a single human exploration vessel. The Iron Wind drifted slowly toward the massive Yith research station, its engines barely maintaining enough power to keep them on course. Emergency repair crews worked frantically throughout the ship, sealing hull breaches and restoring critical systems while the smell of burnt electronics and coolant leaks filled the recycled air. "Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the station," Communications Officer Rachel reported, her voice tired but filled with satisfaction. "Administrator Nala wants to thank us personally for what we did. She also says they have advanced medical facilities that can help treat our wounded crew members." Jake looked around his bridge at the aftermath of their impossible victory. 3 crew members lay unconscious in the medical bay with injuries ranging from plasma burns to concussions from falling debris. The ship itself would need months of extensive repairs before it could safely travel to another star system. They had won the battle, but the cost had been enormous. "Tell Administrator Nala we accept their generous offer," Jake replied. "And ask if their engineering teams have facilities that might help us repair our ship. We're not going anywhere soon in this condition." While Rachel coordinated with the alien research station, Science Officer Lisa Park approached the captain's chair with a puzzled expression on her face. Her head injury had been treated with medical gel, but she still moved carefully as she carried a data tablet filled with sensor readings. "Captain, I've been analyzing all the sensor data from our engagement with the Korth fleet," she said quietly. "Something about this whole situation doesn't make sense. Their warships were more technologically advanced than anything in our databases, with weapons and shields that should have vaporized us in the first few minutes of combat." Jake nodded thoughtfully as he studied the tactical reports on her tablet. The Korth vessels had indeed been formidable opponents, each one capable of destroying multiple human ships under normal circumstances. "The Korth are bullies, Lisa," he explained. "They're used to fighting opponents who either flee immediately when they see the odds, or try to match their firepower in traditional ship-to-ship combat. They've probably never encountered an enemy willing to take massive damage just to protect complete strangers. But sir, it's much more significant than that," Lisa continued, her excitement growing as she shared her discoveries. "I've been monitoring galactic communication networks during our approach to this system. News of this battle is already spreading across known space at light speed. Other civilizations are calling our victory impossible. They're saying a single human exploration ship defeating 6 Korth heavy raiders defies every known law of space warfare." The implications of her words slowly penetrated Jake's exhausted mind. He had been focused entirely on the immediate crisis of saving civilian lives, but their actions today would have consequences that rippled far beyond the Kepler system. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. "Captain, incoming transmission from the research station," Rachel announced from her repaired console. "They're requesting permission to send shuttles over to provide medical assistance and begin preliminary repairs on our ship." "Permission granted," Jake replied. "Tell them to bring whoever they need, and let them know we're grateful for any help they can provide." An hour later, a sleek alien shuttle approached the Iron Wind and docked with their main airlock. The sophisticated vessel was clearly designed for research rather than combat, with advanced sensor arrays and scientific equipment visible through transparent sections of the hull. Administrator Nala entered the human ship accompanied by a team of medical technicians and engineers. She was a tall, graceful being with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lighting, large expressive eyes that took in everything with scientific curiosity, and long, delicate fingers that moved with precise, deliberate motions. Her entire manner radiated a mixture of amazement, gratitude, and intense scientific fascination as she looked around the damaged bridge of the human vessel. The alien medical team immediately went to work treating the injured crew members with equipment that seemed far more advanced than anything humans had developed. "Captain Jake Mitchell," Administrator Nala said, approaching him with what appeared to be a formal bow of respect. "I have lived for over 200 standard years and studied dozens of different species throughout this region of the galaxy. I have never witnessed anything remotely comparable to what you and your crew accomplished today." Jake stood and returned the bow, uncertain about the proper diplomatic protocols for first contact with a completely unknown alien civilization. "Administrator Nala, we only did what any decent people would do when they heard that innocent lives were in danger." Nala's large eyes widened even further, and she stared at him with the kind of intense focus that scientists reserved for particularly fascinating specimens. "Captain, that statement reveals exactly why your actions are so remarkable. In galactic civilization, most species carefully calculate risk versus potential benefit before committing to any dangerous course of action. The Yith Collective has survived for millennia precisely because we avoid direct confrontation and seek diplomatic solutions to conflicts. She gestured toward the damaged bridge around them, where human crew members continued working to repair their ship despite their injuries. You had no logical reason to risk your lives for us. Your vessel was completely outgunned, your crew faced almost certain death, and we had absolutely nothing to offer you in return for such a sacrifice. Yet you fought anyway, and you refused to retreat even when facing impossible odds. The weight of her words settled over the bridge as both human and alien personnel worked side by side, beginning the long process of healing and repair that would follow their unlikely victory.